Welcome to the Monday overreaction, quote unquote, edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with me, Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can watch the show Second City Sports along with our other 6 live shows on Sports Zone Chicago by downloading that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can go to the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play Store, wherever you download your apps. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow Sports Zone Chicago also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, you can do so on all podcast platforms. Just simply by searching, type in the search engine box WARR on Anchor. That's War Anchor. If you want to follow War Media, you can do so on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Remember, Second City Sports airs live every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 10 a.m. to noon in the West. That's 11 p.m. to 11. That's 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the East. And wherever time zone you live in, figure out yourself. So there's no excuse why you can catch us live right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Thank you very much in advance for your support. Lakeena, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. Sid's bringing in a new. Sid's bringing a new device. he just got a new device that he's doing this from, so he's kind of giving a chance to break in. So for those of you who are wondering about the technical difficulties, we're still working. He's still working the kinks on that. So hopefully as we get going here, it'll get better at it. But let's get right to it and talk some football. Every Monday at noon will be our football power hour. We'll recap the Bears game and the rest of the games in the NFL. Of course, last night the Bears, you can look at it however you want. I mean, they kind of, the Rams pulled away from the Bears, and you kind of figured that maybe that would happen eventually. They give the Bears credit. They did hang on for as long as they could, and and I think it wasn't as bad as you thought. I mean, the Rams didn't really dominate, but the Bears kind of showed their shortcomings, if you will. The defense, we'll start and don't actually play pretty well. He had 206. He passed for 206 yards, I should say, and an interception. Justin Fields came out for some offensive packages. He actually scored the rushing touchdown, and David Montgomery had 108 yards rushing and had a touchdown. And also, too, Matthew Stafford, on the other side, had 3 touchdown passes. They threw for 321 yards. Darrell Henderson had ran for 70 yards, but it was actually the Bears' defense that kind of just they were just they're just terrible. I mean, Roquan Smith had a team high 11 sacks. 11 tackles, but unfortunately, they gave us some big plays late. So, Sid, what did you think about the Bears' overall performance last night?
I'm going to try to make this quick on my opening monologue. When you anticipate something, you know that something is going to happen. You kind of want to go hope against hope. But what I saw last night, I wasn't surprised. At my other 9-to-5 gig, when I come home tired, I don't feel like doing anything else. I just want to sit back, unwind, relax, and reflect and recoup myself. Last night, here's the thing before I get to last night. Of course, I was disappointed, but I don't have the energy to yell and scream like I used to, at least not from watching what I saw last night. We can ramble about Matt Nagy, which we will at some point, I'm sure. We could talk about Ryan Pace, which is I'm not going to, because it's not going to make a big damn difference. We told you guys in the offseason he's going to be here past this season, thanks to 2 words, Justin Fields. Ryan Pace is out of this conversation, out of my mouth, as far as I'm concerned. But Lakeena, I know your mother was a former school teacher, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I know she had to have this problem, unfortunately, throughout her teaching career. The class, she's assuming that the class was paying attention, but she had to repeat herself 3 or 4 or 5 times. You know me, I had to regurgitate certain things and repeat myself. But what we were saying last year, Lakeena, and this team tried to convince us that they were good when they went 5-1. As we told you last year, they appear. I repeat that one more again, as the kids would say. Objects are closer than they appear. And if you listen to our show back then to do anything special, Justin Fields made things exciting. He only had 5 snaps, and congrats to him on his first touchdown run of his career. One of perhaps, hopefully, many, if he stays majority injury free. But a couple of things I observed. And don't do anything special. He didn't scare anybody. That defense, on the flip side, congrats to Akeem Hicks for getting that sack in the first half there. But the rest of the defense, as we told you on Friday, especially in the secondary department, it was not good. It was trash. I'm surprised Matt Stafford didn't throw for 500 yards the way the defense played last night. And I know some people want to say that Eddie Goldman would have made a difference. The Rams really didn't run the ball that much, not until the game was out of hand.
So Eddie Goldman, they really didn't need to.
Even though Eddie Goldman would have helped, would he really helped last night? No. Now, Matt Nagy, the play calling. You could question a couple things about the play calling. I'm not going to do it here. The thing that just summed it up for me last night was Bears being Bears. If you want to find out what I mean by that, just look at the first drive of the game. I'm out.
Well, here's the thing though. You thought that maybe when Khalil Herbert actually ran, took the opening kickoff into like I took them in Rams territory, like in the 45, and they really couldn't do anything too much with it. And look, I've always said it before. Know your personnel. It's the same. It's the same story last year. You could say the coaching and everything. And I was doing something with our buddy Kyle Means and Ryan Bukovetsky and our one of our buddies Gabe, for a little pre-game thing before the game last night, and I said this, Ryan tried to kind of be sort of like try to be like positive and say, look, the Bears might actually surprise us. I told him, I said, look, know your personnel. The Bears do not have the personnel. You can change the coaching, you can change all this other stuff, but if your personnel is horrible, then the coaching really, in this case, doesn't matter. Now, look, Eddie Jackson, he changed numbers. Of course, they changed the rule where the players can kind of wear whatever numbers they want. But that huge, like, I don't know if someone just missed their assignment. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, look, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, had big touchdown receptions, and I just kind of feel like the secondary. Once the other Kyle Fuller go, the secondary was going to be a big problem for the Bears, and we saw it. So, and unfortunately, I think Eddie Jackson, whether it's injuries or whatever, but the secondary, Kendall Vender. I mean, is that going to be the guy that you're going to depend on to kind of sort of be the Kyle Fuller's replacement? No. And unfortunately, if you're looking at, maybe is anybody in that secondary? I mean, Jalen Johnson showed some promise, last year before he got hurt, but we didn't hear from too much last night. So I think for me, this Bears, this Bears offense is it's just crazy. So I don't know, I don't know what else to say about this team, but I just think that it's going to be a long season. River folks, we get 17 of these, yay! So. Yay!
As we told you guys also on Friday as well, the first 2 weeks of the NFL season is overreaction week. I'm not going to overreact to the Bears. Was I disappointed in what I saw last night? Yes, but I kind of expected it. The only thing would have been happy for me is that if they would have won the damn game. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen, and I picked them to cover the spread. You know why I'm not a professional point spread player. But that's a whole nother issue for a whole nother time. But taking a look at what the Bears put out there last night, they were actually in it for a while. But number 23, Christian, not Kyle Fuller, not Devin Hester, not Jerry Azuma. On those 2 long touchdown passes to Cooper Kupp, who we told you on Friday to look out for, Cooper Kupp had over 7 receptions over 108 yards last night, 2 scored. Both of them, Christian was out of place, and Eddie Jackson, especially on, I believe it was the first touchdown of the game. It was number 12. I forgot who number 12 was. Him and I believe Christian had a chance to at least tag him, and that didn't happen. And I said to myself, this is fundamentally sound football. It's all mental. You don't know the rules of the game. You thought that his knee touched the ground. No, just to be on the safe side, touch him, and the Rams would have had to punch it in for the score. But no, it's all mental. You had a blunder, which was inexcusable, and then Eddie Jackson again on another touchdown drive. I believe it was the second Cooper Kupp touchdown. Misread assignment, blown coverage, and missed tackles again. This has been an issue for a long time, Lakeena. Missed tackles for the Bears, blown coverages, and defensive coordinator Sean Desai. I'm not going to blame everything on him, but there's enough blame to go around. And you saw what the Bears were last night. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that things are going to turn around and they're going to make a playoff run. But also, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this team's going to go to pits and go 1-16. That's not happening either. This is what happens when you're in mediocrity if you don't when you don't have a clear goal. I'm sorry to go off on the tangent a bit. I said I wasn't going to do this, but the Bears are who they thought they were, and still are. At best, a mediocre team, but at worst, what you saw last night.
Well, I mean, I think the Bears are lucky that they didn't get blown out of the water. I mean, by the second half, I think the Rams kind of kicked it into gear and such. Stafford got more comfortable and was able to kind of get those. Actually, benefited from those lack of secondary. But I think the good news is, I guess the O-line only gave up 3 sacks. Yay! I mean, you thought it was going to be a sack. You thought it was going to be a sack fest. I mean, you could tell that Aaron Donald was getting like angrier and angrier. But Justin Hollins actually, kind of helped get that first sack and kind of got things going. And by that time, the game had already been over with. But look, I don't want to go into a long thing here now. Armando, our buddy Armando, what's up, Armando? Said that Nagy's the main problem. Nagy's the main problem with this team. Of course, guys, feel free to comment on your Facebook and YouTube. Of course, keep them clean. Keep it G-rated because we're not gonna, we'll kick you out if you're not very nice. But
Lakeena will give you the boot.
Yes, we will. But yeah, I don't think. Look, like I just said a couple of minutes ago, you could change the coaching, but if you don't have the players, I mean, you can forget it. And look, the O-line actually didn't do too badly. I mean, of course, they lost Peters, they lost Bourne to injuries. Good, you forget how massive Jason Peters is. Like, good grief. But look, I mean, but once those guys left, I mean, then you can kind of start seeing the cracks in that O-line, like people were saying. So I think for me, like the Bears, the game kind of went like I expected. I didn't think that the Bears were going to keep it close. I'll give them credit for doing that. I mean, I know you're already hearing from sports radio. If you listen to the score and ESPN 1000, that folks are saying, well, Dalton wasn't that bad. I mean, yeah, sure he was. I mean, he had a couple of early turnovers and an interception. Had a fumble too. Okay, he got he ran for like 12 yards when the Bears needed like 7. He's not a runner. He's never been a runner. He'll tell you that. But I look, like I said, we'll talk more about the Cincy game on Friday. But that Cincy game is not a gimme. We'll get to the rest of the NFL after the break. But my prediction for the Bears this season, it looks like I'm feeling pretty confident in my win total. I said 9 or 8 or 8 or 9. I think that's what they're gonna do. They may do maybe a worst 5 or 6, win only 5 or 6 games, but again, I haven't seen anything. And Armando also said that Dalton's pass chart was short passes. His longest pass was 16 yards, and that is Nagy's play calling. Well, he had a couple of flea flickers, when Fields was out there, and you don't need to do that. You got a guy that can run in Fields, so I don't know why are you doing jet sweeps for him? I don't get it, but it is what it is.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you on our Monday edition. This is our football power hour. We're reviewing the Bears' opening day loss to the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium last night on Sunday Night Football, 34-14. Taking a look at the numbers here for the Chicago Bears. Andy Dalton, 27-38 for 206 yards and an interception on the opening drive. Rushing yards, David Montgomery, who was the only guy who showed up offensively for the Bears last night. He was for 66 carries. He had 108 yards and a touchdown. His longest run was for 41-yard runner early in the game. Damian Williams, the free agent acquisition from Kansas City, 6 carries for 12 yards. Receiving wise, Marquise Goodwin, 4 catches, 45 yards. Cole Kmet, it was finally nice to hear from him. Lakeena, we talked about it on Friday, how much that the tight ends be used in his offense. Cole Kmet showed up with 5 catches, 42 yards. Allen Robinson, 6 catches for 35. Damian Williams, 4 catches for 28 yards out the backfield. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches for 26 yards. Lakeena, here's the thing. Offensively, they did show some signs outside of David Montgomery, but I would like to see more from Damian Williams, and I'd like to see a little bit more from the tight end. I don't think Jesse James was activated last night. I wasn't sure, but I know Jimmy Graham had that 1 catch, and that was all we heard from him. It was nice to see Cole Kmet and Peter Holtz, number 81, the other backup tight end. He was part of that block. They got Justin Fields in the end zone late in that first half, but this is pretty much what you're going to see with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Dink and dunk, dink and dunk. And you can play it safe as long as you want, but at some point, you just got to take chances in the Bears. With this coaching staff, they don't like to take a whole lot of chances.
Yeah, well, if you're, our buddies Matt Pack and Dave Watts, who are doing their hot mic this year, you're talking with Bears games, but they said dink and dink, which is pretty much what you saw.
Did on that broadcast last night. Both of them friends of the show. I had the NBC sound down, and they actually had that broadcast on YouTube on them. Ball BAWL on Bulls on their YouTube channel. So I had their sound up. They were very entertaining last night. So.
I know they were.
I know they shouted you out a couple of times. So
I know.
Yeah, they were interesting to watch. They like I said, dink and dink, and that was pretty much what we saw from the Bears offense last night.
And we got a couple of cutesy plays from Nagy, so it was a typical Bears game we've seen in the last few years, just different personnel. That's all. So look, we'll get into the Cincy game, like we said on Friday, but I'm pretty much expecting, the Bears to be exactly who they've always been, mediocre at best. I mean, Robert Quinn had a half a sack. I think it took him, it took Al Michaels like 2.5 quarters to say his name, which it sounds about right in the last couple of years, just taking money for the Bears. It's just absurd. And, we didn't hear Khalil Mack too much. We had 1 tackle. They said Roquan Smith, showed you. Oh yeah, Eddie Jackson actually had 5 tackles. Like, okay, but he didn't have the tackles when it mattered most. Those long, Stafford had those 2 long touchdown passes. I mean, you were like all the way on the other side. Cup and Woods were already gone, and they were like 5 yards ahead of you. So that's not exactly really saying much. But look, I think, like I said, the personnel. I mean, we'll see how the Peters and Borum injuries, how that affect that old line. I mean, look, Daniel's actually able to keep Aaron Donald at bay, which that was pretty cool to see. But I think Donald got very angry. That's why he saw what he saw in the second half. And Armando, our buddy Armando, just said, SoFi Stadium is just beautiful. That's a gorgeous stadium. That's gonna be where this year's Super Bowl is gonna be. They had the big jumbotron and all the colors and stuff. So that is a beautiful stadium, SoFi Stadium. They're in the Birds actually in Los Angeles. So I think I heard a couple of guys who cover the Bears. I heard them say that it's a little hard to get to because there's kind of like in the outskirts of Los Angeles. But that is a gorgeous stadium. Yeah, so that is a gorgeous stadium. But back to the game before we go to break. Some people were saying that maybe they should start Justin Fields to try starting the whole game. I mean, that's a really good defense since he has. So I don't know if you want to, start him off there. He actually was able to, do some maneuvering, but I want to see him as forget all like the weird like offensive packages, but let's see him actually do, lead a series. But again, we'll see. But I don't know. Like the Bears are going to be average at best this year, and I'm going to be feeling pretty good about that.
If you want to feel good some more, I have some more stats for you. For the Los Angeles,
lay 'em on me.
For the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford, as mentioned at the top of the show, 321 yards for 3 touchdowns. His quarterback rating was a whopping 156.1. Darrell Henderson had 16 carries for 70 yards in the score. Cooper Kupp in the receiving department had 7 catches and 108 yards and a touchdown. Van Jefferson was a player I was trying to reference earlier. He had 2 catches for 80 yards in the score. Robert Woods had 3 catches for 27 yards in a late touchdown in the late in the game. And Deshaun Jackson, I didn't see him on the field last night, but it's recorded that he had 2 catches for 21 yards. So, Lakeena, we knew that the Rams offense was going to carve up this Bears defense. I thought the score would be a whole lot worse, but if you really look deep into that game, the Rams, they didn't really go off like most people thought they would. I'm not going to say they had it on cruise control, but head coach Sean McVay had the right game plan. I think we referenced this on Friday. He's going to attack the weakest part of the Bears secondary away from Jalen Johnson. That's exactly what happened. And the running game really didn't need to be a factor until the game was already won. And so the Rams had a perfect game plan.
Yeah, and I think he played it very well. McVay did. That's why he's one of the best young coaches in the league. The fact that he didn't show too much, he didn't need to. I mean, there were a couple of times he actually went for it on 4th down. I think just to kind of like say, well, you know what, it is the Bears. So like, you know what, I'll give him a little bit of a break. There were actually a couple of times he actually went for it and they got it. But look at it in closing here for me. I just think that I mean, it wasn't as bad as Bears fans thought it would be, but it wasn't good enough where you can feel encouraged by this team. And if this team is actually going to really do anything, especially when you talk about the rest of the division. Again, we'll get to that after the break. But, I just think that, for me, I think it kind of just leave it alone at that.
And one more comment, if you could post this up, Lakeena, I appreciate it. Armando, our buddy again. Did you see Virginia at the game? You know, she was scouting that stadium to see what they could do in Arlington Heights. Yeah, we're gonna bring it up at many points during the season, Armando. Trust me, it's as we said when this story broke out during the offseason. This thing is far from over. It's just beginning. It has legs. It's gonna have arms, feet, and everything else in between as well. So we are hitting the bottom of the hour. On the flip side, we're going to review the rest of the week 1 action, and we'll give you a quick preview of tonight's Monday Night Football regular season opener between the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders.
And don't forget our studs and duds for week 1. So guys, feel free to comment either on YouTube or Facebook. Who were your studs and duds for week 1?
Yeah, along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. We are continuing football power hour. That's what you're going to expect from us throughout the football season. Every Monday, the first hour, we'll give you the breakdown for the Bears game. In our second half of this power hour, we're going to give you our studs and dozen, give you our thoughts on the day's previous games. Lakeena, week one of the NFL Sunday took place yesterday. Of course, we'll give you a preview of the tonight's Raiders-Ravens game. But let's go through some of the scores from yesterday's other contest. It was the Steelers over Buffalo, 23-16. I'll give you a couple words. Special teams bad for Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, that blocked punt, I mean, that ended up scoring a touchdown. I mean, that kind of broke the game wide open. And look, I'm a little surprised. I know some people were a little surprised by that score, but look, I think Steelers kind of played that particular style. I think Buffalo tried to do like the whole grind it out, smash mouth football. But I think they were forgetting that the Steelers that was kind of their bread and butter for years. So they kind of played around with that. And it was really like you said, I think the special teams, look, Josh Allen, could have done more. He only had one touchdown pass. Devin Singletary probably could have been used more on the rushing side. And the Steelers really didn't have to do anything on offense, but like you said, it was really the special teams that kind of would kind of change the game. So, I know Bills fans are already like freaking out, but I think look, let's not overreact to some of the stuff we've seen in week one. But that score really did surprise me. The Steelers were able to pull that out.
All right, it's Seattle Seahawks going from the West Coast to the East Coast to play the Indianapolis Colts. They coming out of there with a 28-16 win. Russell Wilson with two first-half touchdown passes, both to Tyler Lockett, and he had another one to new tight end Gerald Everett, who signed with the team from leaving the Rams this past offseason. Lakeena, as we told you on Friday when we did our picks with Christine Manica, I didn't trust Carson Wentz. I don't trust the Indianapolis Colts. They're not all the way healthy right now. You saw that yesterday. Seattle jumped on them from the word go. I was watching some of their game live via my computer.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised by this either. I mean, like you said, the Colts are still a little banged up right now, and you got Wentz, learning the new offense, so like his first playing time. So look, I think Russell Wilson, showed you that he's actually still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Throwing for 4 touchdowns, like you said. I mean, they really didn't have to need their rushing. They didn't have to do the running game too much. And look, I think Seattle's showing you that. We'll talk about the rest of the NFC West because there was one score that I think that kind of surprised some folks, but they looked really good. I think their defense did just enough to kind of slow that Colts offense down. Bobby Wagner had 13 tackles. So it was just a really good, like, old school Seahawk performance in that game yesterday, I should say.
Another West Coast team going to the East Coast and getting a win on one of the shockers of the day yesterday. The Arizona Cardinals dominated the Tennessee Titans 38-13. Kyler Murray was very impressive. Ryan Tannehill, I know he's my fantasy quarterback for now on my fantasy team. He looked like trash. Arizona, Kyler Murray, the defense, Chandler Jones, had 3 sacks yesterday. 3 of them in the first quarter. 5 quarter game, 3 of them in the first quarter. I know he was looking for a contract extension this offseason, especially after looking at TJ Watt's contract for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm Chandler Jones, back up the Brinks truck for me. What more do I have to do?
Give him. Yeah, he's in the last year of his rookie deal, and look, here's a blank check. Give that man whatever he wants, and he had 3 of them. I think right before the second quarter. So that's just how massive that defense was for the Cardinals. And look, Kyler Murray, threw for 4 touchdowns, and it was just they put on a clinic. That's a pretty good Titans team. So I think I can see why we all picked the Titans like a dummy. I picked the Titans. I know I should have picked Arizona, but good grief. But I remember not to listen to myself again, but always follow your first instinct. But yeah, I mean, the Cardinals look really good, and I know a lot of people didn't think they would win that game, but they were able to. They pretty much dominated from start to finish. They time of possession. I think also Cardinals had a big advantage there. So it was look. I mean, offense and defense. What more? What more do you want?
Another West Coast team going to the East Coast and picking up a victory in the opening weekend. The Los Angeles Chargers, or recall them, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles on this show. They defeated the Washington football team 2016. Austin Eckler, the running back, we told you he had a hamstring problem throughout the week. He had a big game yesterday. Ryan Fitzpatrick on the other side, the starting quarterback for the Washington football team, exited the game with a hip flexor. Taylor Ranicky subbed in for him. Also, Keenan Allen had over 100 yards in the score for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers, after Fitzpatrick, he's actually going to be gone for an extended period of time with that hip flexor injury. So it is going to be Heineke, for right now. And look, I think Justin Herbert, made some big plays late. I mean, he kind of kept the chains moving for the Chargers, and it actually ended up being a pretty entertaining game. And look, I think Heineke did what he could, but, Herbert was kind of just cool under pressure and just kind of got the Washington defense on their heels. So good for him, and we'll see. I mean, look, we've said this. We talked about Spiro Diaz, who actually called that game yesterday, and he said that look, don't be surprised though. There's a reason why people are picking the Chargers to be one of the sleepers in the AFC, and you saw why yesterday.
One more team going over from the West Coast to the East Coast to pick up a victory. The San Francisco 49ers defeated the Detroit Lions 41-33. I was actually watching the majority of this game live via my computer. The 49ers looked sluggish early. Detroit, they played well, at least through the first quarter and a half. Actually, they kept up with the 49ers, but Jared Goff, with bad luck, had that turnover to Greenlaw, who got hurt for the 49ers later on in the game. But Jared Goff, through the interception, his hand touched his teammates, the offensive lineman's helmet, which affected the throw, and everything went downhill for the Detroit Lions. Now, Detroit made it a ball game late, but that turnover, the interception return for a touchdown by Greenlaw, really did the Lions in.
Yeah, and I mean, 49ers kind of made that game closer than it needed to be. So that was kind of, that made it interesting. But look, I think Detroit's gonna be one of those teams where you're gonna they probably won't win something. They probably may only win like maybe 3 or 4 games, but they're gonna get a fight from them, thanks to their coach Dan Campbell. So, they're gonna show that fight, and they did. They could have, Lions of past years would have just went to the field position and gave up, but they didn't. So, and also to the 49ers, I mean, they lost a couple injuries. They lost Mostert to an injury. I think he's going to be gone for a extended period of time. I think Verrett's one of their corners. I think he's gone for the year. I believe he tore an ACL, if I'm not mistaken. So the injuries, it was a costly win for the 49ers. So hopefully they can, combat those injuries that kind of derailed them last year. But I mean, look, it was a nice showing, and look, all the NFC West teams won. So. They're all 1-0, so that's that's one of my. We're not doing studs and duds yet, but that's one of my studs. The entire NFC West.
One of the games of the day from yesterday, the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Minnesota Vikings 27-24 in overtime. Joe Burrow looked good. Tyler Boyd did his thing. Jamar Chase, the rookie wide receiver, 5 catches, 101 yards in the score. He's going to be a problem to be dealt with if you're an opponent. So the Bears are going to find that out next Sunday. So we'll leave that alone. On the flip side for Minnesota, Dalvin Cook ran in a score. He's on my fantasy team. Yay. Kirk Cousins did Kirk Cousins things. The Minnesota trailed throughout the ball game, but give them credit. They bailed back and actually hit a game-tying field goal to force the game into overtime. But Cincinnati they were cool under pressure and they got it done.
Yeah, I mean that Cook, fumble, which really wasn't a fumble, but hey, whatever, it is what it is. But what do I know? Which that's up. But too, I think that the good news is that Burrow was sacked 5 times, but I think last year's O-line would have been sacked maybe 7 or 8 times. So I guess that's an improvement. So that O-line still kind of concerns me a little bit there for Cincy, but. And look, I think the Vikings had nobody really to blame but themselves. I mean, they were in this game. They could have, got into a hole, or I guess they were kind of lax they could get anything going. Now they finally were able to get things going late, and who knows if Cook not had that fumble, who knows what would have happened? They probably would have won that game. But I think Cincy's showing you that they're no pushover. So we'll see how they look. We're gonna Bears fans going to see him on Sunday. And as for Minnesota, I mean, I think let's not freak out too much if you're Minnesota. I mean, it's Cincy's not going to be a team you're not going to push them around either. So.
The Philadelphia Eagles pushed around the Atlanta Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons, 32-6. Lakeena, couple things here. The Atlanta offense never got going. Matt Ryan got constant pressure in his face all day long. They couldn't get the running game going. Fletcher Cox, shout out to him. He's the veteran of the Philadelphia Eagles front four. They got in Ryan's face all game long. Jalen Hurts didn't have to do too much, but they did enough to win. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch at least some of the broadcasts, because most of the game was boring. But I know at least you folks here in Chicago didn't get a chance to. The broadcast of the game was not available to us here in Chicago, but I did watch some of it live via my computer. It was the debut of the Fox #2 crew, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen, the one-time former Bear. I don't know if you saw this, Lakeena, but coming out of the commercial break late in the fourth quarter, it was still 22-6. Kevin Burkhardt busted out a makeup brush to brush off Greg Olsen's face, and both of them started laughing. It's like, you're here in the booth now. You don't have to dirty up your face. I'm just paraphrasing here. Anybody catches that on social media, please go look that up. I thought it was a funny moment. But the couple minutes I got a chance to watch and listen to Greg Olsen, he's going to be pretty good. I know he did some stuff with ESPN when he was with Carolina, doing guest analyst work for NFL Live and stuff when he was still a player. But him and Kevin Burkhardt, they're going to be good. Just give them some time, but I think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think they definitely have meshed well. I actually saw a little bit of that game because, like you said, it was kind of boring. But look, a nice debut for Devontae Smith. I mean, he became just a third Eagles receiver since the merger in 1970 to record a receiving touchdown in their first game, joining guys like Chris Carter and Marvin Hargrove. And look, that was a nice showing by them. And like you said, I actually caught a little bit of it because it was sort of, like you said, it was kind of blah. But I think, look, we said that Greg Olsen was going to be really good in the booth, and we even when he was here in Chicago, everybody said he'd be very good, doing the booth. So he is going to do just fine. I think he and Kevin Burke are going to work really well together. But as for the game itself, I mean, look, what about all those folks that were picking Atlanta to be a sleeper in the NFC? Antoine Ward, our buddy Showtime, like where is he? I don't see him anywhere in the comments, dude. But yeah, I mean, he and others were paid in Atlanta. So about that, I mean, they did not look good they didn't look good at all in their defense. Again, they became an issue. I mean, Deion Jones had 11 tackles for them. Was a game high for them, but they really weren't able to slow down that offense of the Eagles. So it just wasn't a good showing for Atlanta, for a team that a lot of people thought, they have a quote unquote easy schedule, and this isn't a very good start for them.
Also, another ugly game was the Carolina Panthers getting by the New York Jets 19-14. I thought Sam Darnold would have a big day. He didn't. Christian McCaffrey, after an early fumble, he rebounded, had a nice game. That Jets defense actually not as bad as people think, but they got a lot of work to do on that offense. I know you have rookies quarterback Zach Wilson, who I think eventually will be good, but this is some of the growing pains you had to go through, especially learning on the job.
And they lost one of their top tackles to Mekhi Becton, 4 to 6 weeks because he had to have arthroscopic knee surgery, to clean up some cartilage that was damaged. And look, I think the Jets, unfortunately, they've had a lot of injuries, during the training camp and just now. So it looks like it's going to be another season of futility for the Jets. But then again, they stayed with the game. They stayed, they were right there, until the end. So they actually tried to make it interesting. But and at the Panthers, I mean, if they can make it go at it for one of the wild card spots, I mean, they still, he's like Christian McCaffrey. You got Darnold's over there now. Their defense is okay. It's not great. I mean, Shaq Thompson, is really solid. He was a Pro Bowler last year, but I'm not really expecting too much from the Panthers nor the Jets. So it was sort of, again, one of those blah games. They're like, oh, okay, the Panthers won. Okay, cool.
And the last of the early games, it was the Houston Texans over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 37-21. Tyrod Taylor did enough for the Houston Texans to win. On the flip side, Trevor Lawrence, a typical rookie debut, a couple of touchdown passes, but a couple of interceptions as well. The Jaguars defense was shredded. In Houston, They just had the momentum from the word go.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were surprised by the fact that Houston won, but I think people were surprised probably by how dominant it was. I mean, like Taylor, I know he's been wanting to start back. Unfortunately, he got his lung puncture. If you guys remember last year with the Chargers, and then of course Herbert came on, and the rest is history. But he actually had a nice showing in his first game. Back as a starter. I mean, Philip Lindsay, who the Texans picked up during the offseason. He had a touchdown, and also Mark Ingram, too. People forget he's over there now too. He also had a touchdown. He led the guys in rushing, but yeah, I mean, it was okay, cool. I mean, look, no one's really expecting too much, although they are in first place in the AFC South right now. The Texans are, but like I said, I mean, Lawrence had your typical. He had 3 touchdowns, which was really good. He threw for 332 yards, but he had 3 interceptions. Look, no one should be freaking out. I mean, he is a rookie. People need to remember that. So, yeah, but I mean, it actually was a surprisingly entertaining game. I know some people were really expecting too much with all the circumstances with the Texans quarterback situation, but I think Tyrod Taylor did a very formidable job.
Yeah. Quickly through the late games, it was the New Orleans Saints 38, the Packers 3. The Miami Dolphins defeated the Patriots 17-16, and the Denver Broncos defeated the New York Giants 27-13. Lakeena, I want to get your analysis quickly on the Saints and Packers.
Look, I know people want to make little, make their own little conspiracy theories, a little synopsis of what's going on with Rodgers. But again, this is sort of what happens when you don't play in the preseason. They should have played at least maybe once in the preseason so that maybe they could have gotten into a rhythm. They looked awful from the word go. I was actually able to watch the beginning part of it via my laptop here because of course the Vikings Bengals game was still on here in Chicago. But
yeah, same here.
Yeah, so it just wasn't. No, it just didn't look good. And look, I know people want to say, oh well, they should go ahead and just trade him now, and and this and that. But look, I think once you get into a rhythm, and look, I don't know what everyone's mindset is with the Packers, but Devontae Adams has one foot out the door, and the defense just wasn't very good, and it was just nothing was there for them. It just no one should really overreact. We'll see what happens, in their next game, but. For the Saints, I mean, Jameis Winston had 5 touchdowns and then
googly eyes.
Yay! I mean,
well, he wasn't googly eyes. He had laser eyes yesterday, so let's be fair.
Yeah, I mean, he was laser focused, and it was actually a pretty good showing by him. I mean, look, are we going to see this all the time from Jameis? No, but look, I think that I said on the preview last night with our buddy Kyle Means in the gang. There have been players have been lobbying for Winston to get the job once Breeze retired. So. The fact that he's, at least for right now, is showing you that, hey, he deserves to get the job. So, and, look, the defense did a really good job, too. I mean, Cam Jordan was just, lights out. I mean, Marcus Davenport was really solid, too. They had a couple of turnovers. So, I'm not going to say that the Saints are going to win the NFC side, I should say, but at least right now, I'm not going to freak out and say that the Packers are going to be terrible because I don't think they're going to be that either. So I think we need to kind of just take it for what it was and just not to try to overanalyze it.
Miami's 17-16 win over the New England Patriots. My quick synopsis: Miami's defense was great, especially early when they forced Matt Jones into a couple of early turnovers. The Patriots offense still has a lot of work to do. Mac Jones did get better as the game moved along. On the flip side, Tua Tagovailoa, he did okay. He wasn't like he was last year when he was a rookie, but he still has a lot of work to do. But he did show some signs that he did work on his game during the off season. And Miami gutted it out on the road for an important opening weekend win.
It was just a very sloppy game on all around. I
was watching the majority of that too via my computer.
Yeah, I was like, there were fumbles. There were 2 or 3 interceptions. So, but I think that Miami did just enough to win that game. So it was not really the best game, but it is what it was. Now Denver being the Giants, Teddy Bridgewater had a nice showing. Had threw for 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon rushed for 101 yards and a touchdown. I think they lost one of their top players for an injury. So Jerry Jeudy, they lost him for the season.
I saw the injury. That was terrible. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he had a really solid rookie season. He was primed for another good sophomore season. So we'll see what happens, and if that's kind of gets back, comes back to bite them. But it was a solid showing by Denver. I mean, no one was really expecting the Giants to really do anything, so it's okay.
You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we'll now give you our studs and duds from Week 1 action. We'll get to our quick Monday Night Football preview in just a moment. Lakeena, I'll start off with my 3 studs: Keenan Allen from the Los Angeles Chargers, Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals, and Teddy Bridgewater from the Denver Broncos. But before let's take a pause. Let's take a pause on the studs and duds. We got to get to Cleveland and Kansas City.
Oh yeah, we forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes. How can we forget? Bad, Sid. Bad.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually a really good game.
Kansas City 33, Browns 29. The Browns dominated the first half. They actually led by 12 points at the half, but as I said to someone on Twitter yesterday, expect Kansas City to come back, and that's exactly what happened. But on the flip side for Cleveland, I know some Browns fans are disappointed at what happened yesterday, but you can be disappointed at what happened yesterday, but this is not the same Cleveland Browns team. And especially looking at the early part of the schedule, I know they got the Bears next week. Not next week, but in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. But looking at their early part of their schedule, you guys should get back on track. So this is not the same Cleveland team, even from last year where we thought they weren't going to make it, even though they turned it around late.
Yeah,
so Cleveland gave all what Kansas City can handle.
Yeah, the Chiefs, remember they didn't have Tyrann Mathieu because he was coming back from from COVID protocols. They didn't have Frank Clark either, and a couple other guys, and they had a slow start, but they were able to kind of get back into it, and it actually ended up being pretty well. I think Kelsey had 2 touchdown catches. Tyreek Hill had almost 200 receiving yards, a touchdown. He kind of led the charge of that comeback. But yeah, I mean, look, they did what champions do. They were down early. They got hit in the mouth and they came back up. So, kudos to them. And look, I think the Browns, I know Browns fans out of habit thought that, oh, good Lord, this is gonna be the same old Browns. But no, I think you guys are gonna be just fine.
All right, now we get to our studs and duds. I'm gonna call an audible a little bit. Teddy Bridgewater will get my honorable mention for my 3 studs, but my 3 studs are Keenan Allen from the Los Angeles Chargers, Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals, and Jameis Winston from the New Orleans Saints.
You stole one of mine. I had Jameis as one of my studs, but I was going to say Chandler Jones. Had 5 sacks by himself. Had 3. Before the second quarter. So just to give that man his money, Arizona. Come on now, don't stop messing around. And I would say I'll give Philly my other stud. I mean, it was was sort of it was kind of a blah game. They're just trotting along, but they didn't enough of win. Also to Matt Stafford. I mean, I think it looks like he is going to be just fine. I think he was 8 or 39 or 6 and 39 or something like that against winning teams. But now that he's in a good situation, I think he's going to be doing a little bit better. So, those are my studs. Now, what are your duds? Sid, on the flip
these
side?
will be teams: the Detroit Lions, the Tennessee Titans, and the Buffalo Bills offense.
Well, yeah, I won't say I was going to say the Bills special teams. It was just not very good, and I think that's probably the one thing that's going to keep Buffalo. Let's hopefully they can clean that up. I'm going to say the entire NFC North. Everyone lost.
The Bears are in first place. Yes.
Yeah, they're also in last place too. If you want to go, I mean, both the Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings all lost. So that whole NFC North is just. It might end up being 8 or 9 win team that might end up winning the division. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be.
Did you catch the tweet from our good friend Layla Rahimi from 670 Score in Chicago? I think she tweeted out late last night or early this morning that the NFC North could be this year's NFC least.
It's been that way for the last.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm saying the
Bears missed out with an 8-9 record.
yeah. Look, the East actually looks. Some of those teams actually really look good in the NFC East. We saw some of that. Even though I think Philly's in first place by themselves right now. But did I do all 3? No. Tennessee Titans are my other dud. I mean, they just that just was not. I know they got a new OC, but. Come on. I mean, I know that the Arizona's defense, Chandler Jones a one-man wrecking crew, but still, I mean, only 58 yards for Derrick Henry? Really? Really? I know you don't want to put all the emphasis on him, but he's one of the guys that got you that's been getting you to the dance the last couple of years. Use him. All right, go ahead, Sid.
All right, we have a couple minutes left before we hit the top of the hour break. Of course, one more game left on the schedule for week 1 of the National Football League. It will take place tonight from Las Vegas. It's the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Baltimore Ravens. That's at 7:15 p.m. on ESPN and ABC. And the debut of the Manning brothers telecast on ESPN2. That's Eli and brother Peyton. I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm trying to check some of that out. As far as the game, Lakeena, on Friday, I picked the Raiders even before the injuries that happened to the Baltimore Ravens late last week, especially now with fans in the stands. The Raiders are going to come out on fire. You have to, as head coach John Gruden would say of the Raiders, pound the rock. And they're going to do that. You need to do that to keep Lamar Jackson off the field. But their issue is defensively, especially on the defensive front. Can you contain Lamar Jackson? Can you get to him a couple of times? And can you force a couple of turnovers? If you could do that, you'll have a chance to win this ball game. And I have faith that the Raiders will do that tonight. This is going to be close, folks.
Yeah, this is not gonna be a blowout like it was last year. I know people were kind of using that as synopsis, but I think the defense is gonna be for me is gonna be what is gonna be for the Raiders. Like you said, can those kid guys like Yannick Ngule or Denzel Perryman, we're getting KJ Wright's over there now too. So you wonder, can they slow him down? And also too, we'll see if the flip side. I know that's a pretty decent, led by Calais Campbell. That's a pretty good Baltimore defense. Can they kind of slow down Derek Carr? And I know Josh Jacobs is questionable. I don't know. They're not saying whether or not he's going to play. Also Helter Renfro and also too Brian Edwards. So it's going to be interesting to see which defense can slow down which offense. I think that's going to be sort of the key.
And with the injuries to the Baltimore's whole backfield, I know they picked up Le'Veon Bell, and I forgot who else they picked up, but can they even run the ball to Latavius Murray? They're both good players, but can they pick up some rhythm on the running game? If they can, it's going to be problems for the Raiders, but I don't know if Baltimore will be able to do that. You can't throw everything at Lamar Jackson's feet. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. It should be a very entertaining game. So, guys, check it out on ESPN and ESPN2 for the Manning Brothers broadcast. So I'm probably going to be turning back and forth from the traditional to the Manning Brothers. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, hour 1 in the books. We still got a lot to do. Talk about in hour 2. The White Sox match number is now 9, and things are getting very close in some of the other divisions in the AL and the NL. So a little trivia going on last night between the two New York teams, between the Yankees and the Mets. Also review college football, and also a couple of first-time winners in the U.S. Open, and where one of them actually kept Djokovic from going for that career Grand Slam. Along with City Brown, I'm Lakeena McGee. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidK80. Once again, at SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, and make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And if you want to make a comment regarding the topics that we talk about, we talked about on today's show, you could do so by simply going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. You watch our shows live for either of those pages, and you can post your comments below. Lakeena will get them up on the air for you. And if you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, make sure you search for War on Anchor wherever you download your podcast. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WAR Media on all social media platforms. That's War Media on all social media platforms. Lakeena, as we kick off hour number 2, let's get into some baseball. The White Sox are 82-61, taking 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox after that dramatic 2-1 victory yesterday on the South Side. Not Larry Garcia hit his second home run of that series, his first career walk-off home run. The White Sox, they didn't play their best series, but they did enough to beat the Red Sox 2 out of 3. Friday's game was electric. They had Jose Abreu with a 3-run shot. And he still continues to pile in the numbers as far as his RBI totals are concerned. I was at Saturday's game. Their bullpen blew it again. That damn Craig Kimbrell will get it just a moment. But they trailed 7-2 on Saturday, made a comeback. Yasmani Grandal along with Luis Robert led that charge. You thought the White Sox were going to finish out the Red Sox for a potential sweep. Didn't happen. But yesterday's game, Lance Lynn was great with 9 strikeouts. I know he has a little bit of an injury. Hopefully he's not too serious. I know you get Lucas Giolito back. Rodon came back on Friday, looked good. But Lakeena, that damn bullpen, i.e. Craig Kimbrell. What was I talking about him around 3 weeks ago today? Remember that game in Toronto? Almost same scenario in a sense. Lance Lynn was pitching his butt off in Toronto. Had a chance. The Sox had a chance to win that game, but who cannot throw a curveball across home plate without throwing it away? Mr. Craig Kimbrell. It happened 3 weeks ago today, and look what happened yesterday. And look what happened on Saturday. I'm not going to seriously say that Craig Kimbrell is the only issue on this team. Absolutely not. But hopefully this is a bad stretch that he's going through, that he could get it turned around before the playoffs. Lakeena, if anybody that needs to have a sigh of relief from yesterday, it was Craig Kimbrell, because I thought after that wild pitch yesterday that I thought the Sox gave that damn game away. They did. Yeah. But Larry Garcia came through, and the Sox got off the White Sox got off the hook.
Yeah, they really did. I think thank you, Larry Garcia, for kind of bringing that up, and also too. And look, I think this is the one that we've been saying for I've been saying this at the beginning of the season, that the White Sox middle relief and bullpen. You thought that maybe that was going to be the thing that kept the White Sox from going forward to the playoffs. We saw that happen against a potential playoff opponent in the Red Sox. And look, I mean, we'll see the rest of the way. I mean, look, Garcia kind of, got, Kimbrell off the hook, if you will, with that home run. But, I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know what else to say about this team at this point. I mean, they're going to win a division, like we've been saying. The magic number is 9. I don't know what else you can say with this team. I mean, look, you got hopefully, Giolito's back. He'll be back, for his next start, and hopefully, we don't get this type of stuff in the playoffs. But you can't really expect, this type. If you're gonna do this type of craziness and do all this type of silliness, you're not going to be able to win the World Series. You're not going to go all the way if you can't do that. So it's just at this point, I just really don't know what else we can say about this White Sox team. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but again, I'm a little bit worried that they will probably be one and done.
I'll give you some hope, Lakeena. Let's put on a happy face. On the flip side, the offense showed up, especially during that comeback on Saturday. Luis Robert is swinging a hot stick. Yasmani Grandal, he had a big home run on Saturday. Jose Abreu, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, he's swinging a hot stick and piling on the numbers in terms of his personal RBI total. In Gavin Sheets, I know that he didn't get a hit on Saturday, but his presence in that lineup is huge. I know also, too, as far as injuries concerned, Tim Anderson is still out. Hopefully he'll return soon. Andrew Vaughn has a wrist issue. He hasn't been in the lineup for the last few days, so hopefully his wrist issues will heal up for a stretch run here pretty soon. But that White Sox offense is still starting to catch up with the starting pitching. Now, Dylan Cease, like I said, I was there on Saturday. Dylan Cease did not have his best outing. Now, do I believe that he's still going to be the number 3 starter? Yes, it was just a bad outing. I'm not ready to throw him out with the dirty bathwater like some people in Sox Twitter want to do. So it was a bad outing by Cease. Hopefully he can bounce back in the next outing that he has. But that offense is starting to come through. And the game that they played yesterday, and to a lesser extent on Friday, we talked about this for the last month, Lakeena. Close games, stressful games. The Sox have to get used to this because in the playoffs, this is all what it's going to be. You cannot beat everybody 9-3, 10-6, 12-2. That doesn't happen. Everything is magnified from every pitch to every defensive play to every move. Everything's going to be magnified times 1,000. And for the Sox, they do have the talent, but you got to win games in various ways. They've done it a few times this year with coming back from humongous odds in terms of runs, and also blown teams out as well. But this Red Sox series has shown up to this point, a couple other series as well, but a series that they won 2 out of 3 with playoff type intensity. You saw what this White Sox team is made of.
Yeah, and I think that sort of gives me a little bit of hope, the fact that they can do it, and I know that they've got the personnel, they got the hitting, they got the pitching. Once everyone, you're not getting those starts from like Cease had and everything else. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, okay, I've been I'm in improvement mode when it comes to the White Sox. I know some of these guys do have playoff experience now, so hopefully they can kind of use that to their advantage once the playoffs really do start. But that Saturday game, I think kind of, I was able to watch a little bit of it in between watching, a lot of these college football games, which we'll talk about after the break. But, the fact that they were able to come back after giving up 7 hits, I should say, in the 3rd inning, they came right back in the 4th and got 5 and, tied it. And then it got really, really crazy after that. But it gives me a little bit of hope. But again, you're going to get a lot of these types of, like I said, you're going to get a lot of these types of games once you get to the playoffs. You're not going to get like somebody that's going to have, and also too, we're going to see, as they get into the rest of their schedule, but you're going to get some to fight for some of these teams. So I think, the Sox are going to have to kind of get it together and just, once everyone comes back from injury, I know Giolito will be back for his start, and they have a couple of guys that are going to be coming back too. I mean, you're going to be facing the Angels, starting tomorrow. We'll see how they look. I mean, that's a pretty decent Angels team. You got Texas, you got Detroit, you got live against Cleveland, because a couple of those games are makeup games, remember? And Cincy, who's probably still going to be fighting for a playoff spot. We'll see where they are by the time they do face each other at the end of the month. And also too, you finish up with Detroit, so it'll be interesting to see how this team looks. You're gonna get fights from some of these teams, as we saw from some of these games this weekend. So I don't know, but it's gonna get very interesting for the White Sox, though, especially as we get closer and closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, and the pitching matchup goes like this for the White Sox as they take on the Angels, as you mentioned, starting tomorrow. Lucas Giolito will start versus Packy Naughton. Wednesday's game is also at 7:10. Dallas Keuchel will pitch for the White Sox. And then, of course, Thursday's game is Ronaldo Lopez as of right now versus Shohei Ohtani. So it's going to be interesting for the White Sox as they continue to march on to clinch his AL Central Division title. So hopefully that Dallas Keuchel, as we mentioned on our show on Friday, he didn't look that bad in his last start against Oakland. Hopefully he can continue that momentum, improve to fight for a playoff spot on this roster. Ronaldo Lopez has been tremendous coming out of their bullpen, Lakeena, and so hopefully he can continue his role on the mound. So I kind of like the matchup against the Angels, Lakeena. You're better than them. I will predict a sweep, but realistically, I expect to, at least for the Sox to take 2 out of 3. If they don't, there's going to be problems.
Well, yeah, I mean, they should be able to at least win 2 out of 3, I think, if not sweep. But, we'll see. I mean, they had to face Ohtani, who's been kind of like the hot hand. So, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting, though. I think that's going to be an interesting series from that sense. But, talking about the Cubs for a little bit. I mean, they got their doors blown off. I mean, they did try to fight a little bit. Yesterday's game, the Rubber Mets tried to win the series, at least take a game in the series, but that didn't happen. They got their butts kicked 15-4 and also 6-1. But the Giants are one of the best teams in the league, so you shouldn't feel too bad if you're a Cubs fan. Now let's talk about the rest of the baseball. But that New York series. I mean, of course, they had the emotional, the pomp and circumstance from the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, and that was a really beautiful tribute there. Now, in contrast of Sunday night's game, which got the ESPN Sunday Baseball treatment, it was back and forth, and Stanton actually tied the game. And he and Francisco Lindor were kind of chirping at each other. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was actually pretty funny. All the
thumbs down this time.
There was no guys were just jawing at each other. There were no punches thrown. No one got thrown out. So everybody, it was kind of sort of like crazy for a few minutes, but cooler heads prevailed and everybody went back. But Lindor actually had 2 home runs then, but actually ended up hitting the game. The go-ahead home run. So he actually had 3 home runs during that, and the Mets ended up winning the series. So that might have ended the Yankees' playoff chances because you got other teams in the back end that are nipping at their heels. What do you think of that series?
As we talked about on Friday, who needed that series more, the Yankees or the Mets? I said the Yankees, but the Mets showed up. I know they lost a tough one on Saturday, which prevented them to sweep. But the Mets showing what they made up here. It may be a little bit too late at the end in terms of winning the NL East because they sure as hell don't have a chance in the NL wild card. We'll break that down in just a moment. But the Mets did show some fight. The Yankees, as I said before, Lakeena, they do have the offense, but outside of Garrett Cole, can you depend on their bullpen? Aroldis Chapman has been injured all year. He's been back and forth with his performance, but can you really depend on them come playoff time? As of right now, no.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that way, but I'm just looking at it through unbiased eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like what I'm seeing from this team. I don't. The Rays are going to end up winning that division. I think they're matching them. I believe it's like 11 or 12 or something like that to clinch their division. So they, at least I should say. So that's probably over and done with. But look, all the other teams, and that did. It will be such a Baltimore. Of course, we'll get to them in a second. But the Blue Jays. I mean, they scored 44 total runs in their 3-game series against Baltimore. That's 3 short of their franchise record. They scored 22
That's what
yesterday.
you're supposed to do against bad teams.
They scored 22 yesterday. And they scored 11 in the first like 4 innings, but I think that's an MLB record, I believe. So, you did what you're supposed to do against, bad teams. And look, Blackler Jr. probably will not end up winning AL MVP because, of course, we have to talk about that guy Ohtani, but he had a solid showing, just what everybody contributed. So you did what you're supposed to do, and now they're right there in the thick of it in the AL wild card chase. But what else sort of like impressed you this weekend in baseball?
Congrats to Corbin, the starting pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. Him and reliever Josh Hader, they combined for a no-hitter, the second in Milwaukee Brewers franchise history. Saturday night, defeating the Cleveland Indians on the road 3-0. That makes it officially 9 no-hitters in the major leagues this season. Of course, on this show, we have 11. That's Madison Bumgarner's 7-inning no-hitter in Atlanta, which was an official game for a 7-inning doubleheader game, and the one from the Tampa Bay Rays against Cleveland back in early June. So on this show, we have 11 no-hitters on this show. So 11 no-hitters from Major League Baseball this year. So congratulations to Mr. Corbin and the whole entire Brewers organization. That's that second no-hitter, as I mentioned, in franchise history, with their win against Cleveland on Saturday, helping out the Sox with their magic number there. So congratulations to them. But getting back to the rest of the NL wildcard chase, the San Diego Padres, they showed up, but their bats didn't. As they were swept by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Max Scherzer yesterday becoming the 19th MLB pitcher in history of the game to strike out 3,000 batters in a career. He had a perfect game going through 6 2/3. Of course, Eric Hosmer broke that up in the 7th inning yesterday, but the Dodgers are still on the roll. Mookie Betts showed why he's the MVP of that team, not only with his bat, but with his defense as well. You saw that yesterday. So the Dodgers are still tracking down the San Francisco Giants. As you mentioned, Lakeena, they swept the Cubs here in Chicago. Chris Bryant got all the accolades and tributes from the Cubs fans, and rightfully so. It looks like this NL West race will come down to perhaps the last weekend of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, they thought that they were going to kind of show up, but sorry, Dodgers, the Cubs couldn't do their thing, to kind of help you guys out. But look, they have they have the Diamondbacks coming up early this week, starting tonight. Then they have Cincy. They got to go at Cincy and at Colorado and at Arizona again. So this is sort of like their shot to kind of, try to, make headway here in the West. I mean, San Fran, their schedule is a little bit tougher. They have the Padres starting tomorrow and, starting tonight, I should say. That's a 4-gamer. Then they have Atlanta and they have the Padres again. So they're kind of sandwiched between the Padres so they can kind of get some help from them, and also to Colorado, Arizona, and the Padres. So I'm sure the Padres will love to play spoiler, though they're still right there for the NL. But they got teams nipping at their heels too. So I'm sure they probably would love to have had a better showing against the Dodgers. But I think, like I said, the Dodgers are kind of on a mission right now. So we'll see what they can do, and also too, as for the NL East, great going, Phillies. Losing a series to Colorado at home.
You just read my mind. As we talked about on this show for the last few weeks, Lakeena, as we now into the middle of September. What did we say time and time again? When you're a good team and you have a bad team on your schedule coming up, you figure, we just throw out our bats and gloves to show up expecting a victory. That doesn't always happen. The Philadelphia Phillies, along with a couple other teams, are finding that out right now. You still have to show up to play. Nothing is guaranteed. These losing teams, especially at this time of year, they have nothing to play for in terms of the playoffs, but they're playing for their jobs, whether it's with their own teams or with another team next season via trade or free agency. But these lower league teams are saying to themselves, if we can affect playoff seeding or not this team out of the playoffs in its entirety, that's what we're playing for. So we're playing with a loose attitude. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah, the Rockies will hope to play a spoiler again. They have Atlanta starting tomorrow. So, yeah, I think the Rockies are playing that way. I think we saw it with the Cubs a couple of weeks back. So I think, look, you can't really take these teams lightly. So I think that the Phillies learned that the hard way. Now, Atlanta has a tough schedule. They got, like I said, they have Colorado. They have 3 against the Giants this weekend. Then they have 4 at Arizona and at San Diego, and they have the series. Their series against they finish up with the Phillies and the Mets. So they could, these teams, these 3 teams, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets are probably going to end up have to beat each other up to end up winning the NL East, and it'll be interesting to see who is coming out on top.
Yeah, speaking of Arizona, look what they did to Seattle over the weekekend.
Very disappointed. I was very disappointed in Seattle. I think this is sort of their way to kind of try to make things interesting. Perhaps maybe not necessarily the West, but they're still within distance in the AL wild card. It's very very crowded there, but that was just not a good showing. And like you said with your example, Sid, they just didn't look good this weekend. And look, you're gonna, like I said, these teams have nothing to lose. So the Diamondbacks, kudos to them for taking 2 out of 3.
And what about Texas putting a dent into Oakland yesterday and winning 4-3?
Yeah, Oakland, hoping to kind of gain some ground because Houston had a pretty tough had a pretty tough series this weekend, but they didn't look good either. So it was just like, oh, okay. I mean, it seems like nobody wants to win that division, and I think Houston probably end up winning that division because they're 6.5 up on both the Mariners and the A's. So they might end up pulling that out. But like I said, the wild card in the AL. I mean, Toronto is now up; they've been in a hot streak. Boston, lost against the Sox, but they're still right there. The Yankees are now out of the wild card spot right now, but then the Mariners and the A's are still right there. So you got 5 teams that are still fighting for those 2 spots in the wild card. So it's really gonna come down to like, who can sort of like show up for some of the games, because some of them really have not so tough games, but we saw that some of them actually couldn't deliver.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Cindy Brown, as we break down the best and worst that was from Major League Baseball from this past weekend. Lakeena, let's get into some of the important games on the schedule. Starting today, we have a game going on in progress right now, bottom one in New York City. This is a makeup game from August 22nd. It's the Twins with the early 4-0 lead over the Yankees. Of course, I think you mentioned this earlier. Looking at some of the important games at some of the series starting tonight is the Miami Marlins. Oh, sorry, not the Miami Marlins. Excuse me. It's the Toronto Blue Jays hosting the Tampa Bay Rays at 6:07. Then you have the Cardinals at the New York Mets. That's at 6:10. You have the Astros at the Rangers at 7:05. As we said, don't take these below 500 teams lightly. And then, of course, you got the Padres and Giants at 8:45 Chicago time. The Diamondbacks at the Dodgers at 9:10. And, of course, the Red Sox they traveled here from Chicago to Seattle as they take on the Mariners also tonight at 9 p.m.
Yeah, this is good. A couple of those series are going to be very interesting, and like you said, a couple of these are kind of makeups. Let's see. I think the Cubs. I believe they played Phillies. They gotta go.
It starts tomorrow.
Yeah, they're traveling to Philadelphia for tomorrow. So if you're the Phillies, you better hope that you can kind of show up for that series, because the Cubs are gonna give you a fight. St. Louis will be playing the Mets. As I mentioned earlier, the Rockies play the Braves. So those 3 series alone if you're a fan of those NL East teams I mentioned, you better hope that they show up for these series, because the teams are going to be facing, they're going to be give you guys a fight. So we'll see. Oakland has a tough one against Kansas City starting tomorrow. So that's going to be an interesting one. Also, Boston and Seattle, they start starting tomorrow. That's big for the wild card positioning.
And also, too, back in the NL wild card, wild card showdown, the chase is on. The Cincinnati Reds will play the Pittsburgh Pirates for 3 starting tomorrow in Pittsburgh. So Cincinnati has to go on the road to Pittsburgh. As we said before, Pittsburgh's been a terrible team all year. They're one of the worst teams in the league next to Arizona and Baltimore. But Cincinnati has their struggles, especially on the road recently. We saw what the Cubs did to them over a week ago. So I expect Cincinnati to bounce back. And we'll see what happens, what they're made of against a lowly team in Pittsburgh.
That's like I said, make these series. Look, we got about 3 weeks left in the season, so all these series coming up, I think if you're in the cusp of the playoff chase, these are huge. And like I think some of these teams are realizing that, you may want to show up for some of these series, even against some of the really bad teams, because look, these teams are nothing to lose, like you said, Sid. I mean, these players are probably going to be auditioning for other teams, or for maybe their new managers or GMs or whatever. So they have motivation to play. You don't think they do? They don't, but they do.
Yes, they do. Lakeena, let's go back to the White Sox as we have a couple of minutes left before the break. We talked about the bullpen. I think it's safe to say that Tony La Russa, the manager, will not let Craig Kimbrell close anymore. That's Liam Hendriks' job. And it should stay that way until further notice, barring any major injuries. But Aaron Bumman's been doing okay. Michael Kopech, like as I mentioned on Saturday, I was there at the game. Kopech actually did well, even though the White Sox at the time was trailing 7-2. He pitched a couple of good innings out of that bullpen, so it's nice to see him back. Aaron Bumman, the same thing. He was in the game on Saturday, pitched well. But Craig Kimbrell, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the only bad link to the team. I'm going to want to blame him for everything, but it's just that right now, hopefully he's going through a bad stretch, and hopefully he can get it together. Like you say, you have less than 3 weeks left in the regular season. The White Sox needs to start winning games to have that momentum and that confidence going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want to. You want to have. You don't want to be limping in or dragging yourself in the playoffs. You want to be on a high as you're going to the playoffs. So hopefully the bullpen can get together, but like I said, I mean, it's the playoffs are always tricky because it's usually the bullpen is sort of like, I know people want to say the starting pitching and the hitting, but it's really whoever shows up in the bullpen, that's who's usually going to take you to the promised land in the playoffs. So hopefully the White Sox can clean some of that stuff up. And, you got Liam Hendricks, who's actually done a formidable job. Yeah, he's had some hiccups, here and there, but he's actually been your most consistent, reliever. And look, maybe Kimball's probably better off coming and be kind of like the setup guy. So it's fine.
Yeah, also, like you mentioned, Ryan Tepera, he's been doing a heck of a job as well, coming out of their bullpen for the White Sox as well. So, hopefully, the White Sox can continue this momentum. They had a great win yesterday, as we mentioned, against the Red Sox in a walk-off fashion. The Angels are coming to town. I want to see how they pitch to Shohei Ohtani. Will they go after him? Will they treat him like Barry Bonds and walk him almost every time? I want to see what their approach is, because you mentioned we have Giolito. He'll make a start tomorrow night. Dallas Keuchel on Wednesday, and Ronaldo Lopez on Thursday. As he'll face Shohei Ohtani as the pitching opponent.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting too. I think what's the over under on if the Sox will walk Ohtani, maybe.
Oh, that is a good one. That should
be a parlay. That should be a parlay people should be playing right now. I'm not a gambler. I'm not much of a gambler, but that might be something that they'll. But they get knowing the rules, he's probably going to want to go for it. So maybe.
How many times Ohtani will walk in this series, whether it's intentional or unintentional? How many times?
Oh, once. I think at least once. Probably once, maybe like one of the 2 games, maybe 2 of the games. I don't think they're going to do it like all 3 games. They're going to be playing facing each other, but I think he'll probably want to do it. I think he might want to try and go for it, maybe like dare Julio, especially Julio tomorrow. But
yeah, I'll say about 5.5.
5.5. Okay, all right.
5.5.
I'll take the under on that one now.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah, to clean up Corbin Burns and Josh Hader. That's the pitcher you were trying to figure out who. Yeah, Corbin Burns. Yeah, that's first career no hitter for him, and like I said, the 11th.
Yes.
I don't want to officially say 9th, but no, it's 11, folks. That's our official number. But okay, so we got to the top of the hour. Now we're going to talk some college football, including a couple of big upsets, that happened. Also, to some other stuff too. So along with Cindy Brown, I'm Lakeena McGee. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you on the other side of this break.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can listen to us every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. If you miss our show on any of our other 6 live shows on Sports Zone Chicago, make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. And you can watch replays also on our YouTube page. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago or type in Second City Sports in that search engine box on YouTube. You can watch the replays of our shows as well. Lakeena, last segment of the show, last half hour. So let's get to it. College football for week 2 took place this past weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch much of it because I was getting ready for the Sox game, but a shocker, at least in my eyes and many people's eyes as well. The University of Oregon, the Mighty Ducks, went into the Buckeyes territory in that horseshoe and said, you better not take us lightly. And they defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes 35-28. That West Coast to East Coast time zone we talked about on Friday, Lakeena, we talk about it more in the pros, but Oregon looks like that time zone difference didn't let it affect them. They jumped down on Ohio State early.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was surprised by that. I mean, a lot of people, you hear all the pundits. I know Fox had their big new kickoff, their pregame show right there. And they were all saying that even the West Coast guys, even Matt Lyon and Reggie Bush, who are both Heisman winners. Yes, we're still counting that as a Heisman winner of Reggie Bush. I don't care what this, but sorry, a side note there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people thought that was going to be the issue. This is like their time clock's like 9 o'clock, but from the word go, they looked really good. They were the better team. And remember, they didn't have like Kelvin Thibodeau, who's one of their top defensive guys, and a couple other guys too. So the fact that they were able to sort of hit Ohio State in the mouth and kind of kept hitting, and Ohio State didn't have an answer. I mean, they would have an answer, but then the Ducks were able to answer right back. I mean, Anthony Brown was really good. 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. CJ Verdell, who, if you guys haven't heard, I think he's probably going to be one of the guys front rows for the Heisman Trophy, 161 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable. Also to the defense. Defense actually made some pretty solid plays. I mean, you got to give them credit. I mean, some guys, the guys made some good stops. I mean, and look, I would say this to the point where, look, I saw that Ohio State against Minnesota, their opener a couple of weeks back. I wasn't that impressed. I mean, so I know some people were shocked. I wasn't. I mean, I didn't think that the Ducks were, and this was actually a nice 53rd birthday present for Mario Cristobal. So happy birthday, and a very nice present for you, Coach Cristobal.
Yes. We almost had another shocker in college football this past Saturday. It's number 8 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They got by Toledo 32-29. The Rockets almost put out an upset in South Bend.
Overrated. I've been saying that for a long time about Notre Dame. Like, this is just like I'm kind of surprised because Cleveland's actually a pretty decent team from the MAC, so I wasn't like too shocked, but I mean I'm just tired of it. I mean they did not look Notre Dame. They had, of course, we saw them have that bad showing against not a great showing against Florida State. We'll get to them in a second because they got upset too, but it was just like I'm not impressed by Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame is probably I think they're gonna lose because they're not that impressive. I know our buddy Sean Davis is a big Notre Dame fan, but I wasn't impressed. I'm sorry. And look, Purdue, they're going to face a pretty good Purdue team, on Saturday. So I'm not going to say they're going to be upset, but that's a pretty good Purdue team. But I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, so like that's no, I wasn't impressed.
The Battle of the State of Iowa took place over the weekend. It was the number 10 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes beginning by number 9 Iowa State, I should say. I said Ohio State. Good grief. Iowa State 27-17. So Iowa is back on top.
3 interceptions for Brock Purdy. I mean, just was not a factor. That defense for Iowa. Breece Hall had an uncharacteristic fumble, so just a lot of very uncharacteristic mistakes for the Cyclones. But look, I mean, I think the Iowa team's legit. I mean, look, they had 3 interceptions and they force fed that Cyclones offense. And sorry, Cyclones, I don't think you're ready for the big time yet. I know there were some people that said that they were, but you weren't. So, but yeah, it was really Iowa's defense that they just pummeled that offense for the Cyclones.
Yeah, let's go locally to college football. The Northwestern Wildcats they get back on track with a 24-6 win over Indiana State, while the Fighting Illini they lose a heartbreaker to the Virginia Cavaliers on the road, 42-14.
Yeah, yeah, I think they kind of fell back to earth after that win against Nebraska a few weeks back. I mean, they lost to UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners, beat a Virginia team that's rebuilding. So, but I think Illinois is pretty much we know who they are now, and I think they are who you thought they were.
And what about Florida State? You wanted to mention?
Oh,
Earlier?
Jacksonville! Oh, good old Jacksonville State. Yes, the Gamecocks. Pulled off the big upset in their home, in their home turf, in Tallahassee. Bobby Bowden's probably turned over in his grave right now. Jackson State, of course, they're they're from Jacksonville, Alabama. They play in the Ohio Valley Conference, so this is a big win for them and that conference. I think they got paid like about over $1 million, but only to lose, only to win. So when you thought that maybe McKenzie Milton, that was great to see a couple weeks ago against Notre Dame, but it just look that will against that will to win for the Gamecocks. Good for them.
Yes, shouts out to them. Saturday night in prime time, we saw Michigan defeat Washington 31-10. Washington, the Huskies are now 0-2, while the Wolverines are 2-0. As I told you, Lakeena, strong defense and running the football will be the keys to the win for Michigan. They did just that in front of a national audience at the Big House last Saturday.
Yeah, all of Jim Harbaugh's new coordinators and assistants, they're all under 40. So maybe going younger, maybe that was sort of the thing. I mean, Blake Corum and also Hassan Haskins, they combined for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So combined, I should say. So that was a really good showing. Also to the defense. I mean, they just slowed down the Washington. And I don't know what's going on in Seattle, but Jimmy Lake, who's the coach there, there are some folks there that feel like maybe he should probably be on the hot seats. I don't think that's the case. I just don't think they have to look. I think that's a young personnel. So our buddy Lamont, he's watching on YouTube. He just said that Illinois is going to bounce back this week. Okay, Lamont. Okay. All right, Lamont.
What's up, Lamont?
Hi, Lamont. But okay, Michigan. Michigan. Look, I'm not going to say that Michigan's going to win the Big Ten East. I don't. But again, I think they're giving you kind of like sort of laying the groundwork. But yeah, maybe they're turning the corner. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Speaking of turning the corner but going downwards, number 21 Utah, they were upset by BYU 26-17.
Well, like I said, I mean, the BYU. This is actually going to be the last time that they're going to play. They've been playing, I think, since like 1896. The two of them, but they're unfortunately, there's actually going to be their last meeting. They're not going to be playing it for another 3 years because there was an agreement also to conference transitioning because BYU, I should say, is going to be joining the Big 12 in a couple of years. So, and some other stuff too that was happening. So that's kind of why. But I think people know that Utah will probably be kind of like that team that kind of like could make a case in the Pac-12 South. I was like, that's going to happen right now. They kind of struggled, and of course, I think BYU kind of played like a team that your state rival. You're not going to be playing it for a few years. I think they wanted to say, hey, you know what? Remember us. So, but that was they just struggled, and I think BYU's got BYU's got a really rich program. So, Steve Young, Jim McMahon, among others. So, Jaron Hall had 3 touchdown passes for them, and the running game kind of kept Utah, I should say, off the field. So I think that kind of was a big difference there in time of possession. But I think Utah tried to make a comeback, but BYU said so you're not gonna get us.
Yeah, a couple of key scores from Saturday. Number 14, the USC Trojans, they were upset at home by the Stanford Cardinal 42-28.
Yeah, we gotta get our buddy Sean Salisbury on. He's not he's a USC alum, big quarterback for them back in the early 80s. Yep. He's not very happy. I mean, we gotta get him back on, but yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, their kicker got their kicker got kicked out because of the targeting. That's a whole nother thing.
Oops.
That targeting rule, but that should have been the kind of like that's kind of like they set the tone, I guess, for SC, but yeah, I mean, Clayton Silva struggled. Their running game wasn't very good. The defense didn't look very good either for the most part. And, you got to give Stanford some credit. Give Stanford some credit. I mean, they kind of, they showed you, Tanner McKee had 2 touchdown passes for 234 yards. So, I really don't know what to think about USC. I mean, I know a lot of people there are not very happy that Clayton Helton's still coaching there. So
if Urban Meyer didn't want to coach that school a couple years ago, you got issues, but that's a whole nother story in itself.
Like I said, we gotta get Sean on back on, because I'm sure he'll tell you what's up.
Yeah.
But Arizona State, a nice showing for them. Beating UNLV.
Shout out Herm Edwards, number 23 in the country. They're 2-0.
Yeah, J.D. Daniels had 175 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Actually, rushed for 125 yards too. So, J.D. Daniels. So that was a good showing for them. And I think Michigan State. They look really good too in their last game. But yeah, look, I think college football this time of year, I think you're kind of seeing like who's really contender or pretender. I mean, Clemson had a bounce back win. Okay, yes, it was against South Carolina State. Okay, but Cincinnati looked really good too. Desmond Ridder, who I've been lobbying for, should be right there for a Heisman consideration. They beat Murray State. Penn State, had a nice win. Texas and Arkansas. I mean, I guess
Texas, I was just getting ready to go to that game. Yeah, Arkansas shocks Texas 40-21.
I guess Texas isn't back. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, it was a rushing. They combined 333 yards. Their running backs did for Arkansas. That's what made the difference. And I guess Texas isn't back yet.
Yeah, another team that's I'm not going to say back, but they're ranked number 11, and they had a big, I don't want to say a big win, but big win for them. But it wasn't too much of a sweat. The Penn State Nittany Alliance got by Ball State 44-13. So they didn't let that win over Wisconsin get them down.
No, they didn't. And I think if you're James Franklin, you're glad for that. I mean, they could have easily, sort of like dragged along and just became lax, but no, they came in and they jumped on Ball State quick, and you gotta give them credit for it. Another really good game that I want to mention is the Johnny Majors Classic. He coached these 2 teams. Pittsburgh, of course, he won a national championship with Tony Dorsett, as he was called back then. I don't know how that happened, but okay. 44-34. Kenny Pickett actually is on the verge of breaking all of Dan Marino's passing records there. Finally, it took like almost 40 years, but it seems to be happening. But he threw for a couple of touchdowns and also rushed for a touchdown. So that was like a nice, exciting game. If you guys didn't get a chance to catch that in the first annual Johnny Majors Classic, did both well with both these schools. But what else got your attention there in college football, Sid?
Like I said, just that Ohio State loss at the Horseshoe. I didn't expect that to happen. We did said Oregon could show up and make things interesting, but to go in there and win like that the way they did, no one saw that coming. And of course, locally, sorry Lamont and sorry Herb Lawrence, my buddy. I know you met him too from 670 The Score.
Yes,
I know he's a big Illini fan, both basketball and football. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I know I'm wearing an orange shirt. It has nothing to do with the Illini, but yeah, how can you explain? When was the last time Virginia has been a powerhouse in football? I'm just asking.
They've been to bowl games. I mean, it's not like that. Okay, yeah, they haven't been like a national power, but they've been a consistent team. And like I said before, I mean, I don't think. Look, you got to give Brett Bielema a couple of years, I think, because I just think that the personnel, bring his own guys in, his own other personnel, and play his style. So it's going to take a while, but I mean, it's fun. I mean, I think Nebraska. I mean, they've had a nice couple of wins. They got to face Oklahoma this weekend. They're renewing that rivalry after over 10 years that they've played. But I don't know what else you can say about Illinois at this point.
Yeah, Brett Bielema is going to have a tough go, at least for his first year down there in Champaign. So he's trying to implement his system onto new players. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. We have about 10 to 13 minutes left in the show. Lakeena, let's go back to the NFL. I want to see how the ratings were from yesterday, especially with the national games with Buffalo and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Kansas City. I'm sure those two, especially the Cleveland Kansas City game, I'm sure rated high for CBS, and that was the game of the day, according to most people, including yours truly. But the Cowboys Buccaneers game on Thursday was the most watched NFL kickoff game since 2015 for NBC, and it went up 20% from last year's kickoff game. It was the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans, and they had that ceremony before the game, about racial justice and things along that line. Lakeena, as we said before, the NFL is number one in this country. Is not just because of the parity; it's because of the gambling aspect. Now, it's not just fantasy football, but it's the gambling aspect of the FanDuel, DraftKings, and now it's still a few states that are legally gambling, including here, Illinois, to a certain extent. But you're going to see more states doing this soon as far as legalized sports gambling across the board. This is just going to get bigger and bigger. And the NFL, along with these other three professional leagues, with the NHL, MLB, and the NBA, it's going to get more popular. You're going to the way to keep fans interested and get new fans. The way to do it is get legalized gambling.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. And also, too, I wasn't surprised the fact that they were able to kind of get these big numbers. Like I said, it's fantasy and gambling. I think those are probably the reasons why the NFL is king. So I think I wasn't surprised that it got the big raise that it did on Thursday. I mean, plus it actually ended up being a really good game. And plus, Dallas always rates well. I think, Tampa Bay has been kind of like that, especially when they're good. They actually are one of the top draws in the NFL, so I'm not really that surprised by it. But I mean, I think that I don't think they haven't said the raise were for yesterday's games, both the day games and the late afternoon, and also to the prime time game. I'm sure they were really rated high. So, but yeah, I mean, you can streaming, everything. So I think it's only going to get bigger though for the NFL, and that's possible.
Now, I don't think NBC, I'm sure they're going to have high ratings from last night's Bears game. It was competitive for a while, but let's be honest here, especially for us here in Chicago. You could tell by every other camera break from the regular action, they were focusing up on Justin Fields. And as well as I do, the NBC wanted him to be in the game more than five snaps and wanted Andy Dalton to mess up or heaven forbid get hurt, or which he didn't last night. And so I want to see what the numbers are for the Sunday night game across everything. Their games are available on Peacock as well as regular television and other streaming services. So I want to see what the numbers are. I don't think it's going to be matched with the results from Thursday, but I'm sure it will be pretty high.
Yeah, I think they will be pretty high too. I think that it probably won't reach that level that the Bucs and the Cowboys reach, but I think you're probably still gonna get about maybe 20, 25 million, somewhere in that range viewership. And look, I think, like I said, it was an okay game. Like I said, it wasn't a close game. Let's be honest here, but it'll be interesting though. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what the ratings are for these next games, especially on Sunday night's game. We got the Chiefs and the Ravens. They're going to be playing each other, so the Rays get a little bit of a break. They don't have to play on Sunday afternoon. They don't play till Sunday night, so that should help them a little bit, resting up, coming off a short week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the ratings are, because I'm trying to check and see through my phone, and I just haven't seen any. So like I said, it should be a fun. Should be. Yeah, I think the Rays are going to be really high, though. I believe. I don't know about you, Sid, but I really think that they're going to be very high for all the matchups. I think, because I think, especially with streaming now, I think the NFL realizes that, even though some of the networks aren't going to be mentioning gambling, I think they know that's going to be a big aspect of it. I don't know why some of the networks still have not done that, and
CBS.
I'm not going to say it, but I don't know why they haven't embraced it. It's not like it's taboo. I mean, like, it is legal in a lot of states. So I don't know what you're doing, CBS, but I mean, I think it's only going to get bigger and better, especially once this new TV deal, starts up next year. I think they will probably have to change their tune, CBS, when it comes to gambling, but we'll see.
Yeah. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena with you for a few more minutes. Lakeena, before we get to our last story of the show for today. Speaking of yesterday's action, this is the first time in history both CBS and Fox have had double headers for week one. Usually one network gets a double header for week one, then they alternate weeks throughout the year until the last week of the season for the last almost decade now, where week 17, both networks have double headers for playoff implications. What did you think about that decision yesterday for both networks to have double headers? I like it, especially with this year being a 17-game season. Do you think that the NFL will do it again?
I hope so. I think that, especially since they did away with the blackout rule, which I think that was like, oh my God.
I hated that up until a decade ago.
I'll say the Bears. Yeah, especially if you're a Bears fan, you only get 2 games. Like, okay, what if the Bears game sticks? Like, maybe we need another game kind of distract. So thankfully, a few years ago they did away with that. Hopefully they do this again, because I think that they know that the more eyeballs, that's more money. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why they did that. Hopefully they do it again next year, especially once the new TV deal kicks in. So I liked it. I think I liked the fact that we had both noon games, especially if one game sucks, especially if you don't have a chance to stream, or if you don't have red zone and things like that. I think that's always a good thing. I think people want to have options, like we've been talking about for weeks, it seems. So I think this might be something that they start doing, not just for the later part of the season, but also the first few weeks of the season, because I think people want to see more NFL, more football, more better, as Mark Silverman would say from ESPN 1000. Happy belated 50th, by the way, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, but as everything that happened with them last year, but I mean, I hope they keep doing it. I think hopefully this will be a trend, and I think like I just said, more football, more better.
Yeah, I'll give a quick story, Lakeena. Remember back, you mentioned those Bears teams, especially in the mid to late 90s, and I know Dave Wannstedt. He's doing a great work for NBC Sports Chicago here locally and nationally for Fox. He's part of that Fox kickoff pre-game on Sundays with Carissa Thompson and Charles Woodson, who did a great job yesterday. Remember those Bears teams, the mid to late 90s, they were terrible. And like you said, the blackout rule was in effect back then. And plus the Bears weren't selling out all those games back then. Remember, Lakeena? And I remember this specific week. Remember when the Bears had a home game on Fox, and me being a Dallas Cowboys fan back then, it would be the Cowboys and the 49ers coming up next. Everybody else will get that game except for in Chicago when it was a home game. I was so pissed, man.
I know.
I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this for the last few weeks. I said, I'm gonna find the perfect time to tell this story. Imagine, Lakeena, all the stuff that you kids we all have now, for the kids growing up thinking that the world was like this. It wasn't like this back in the day.
Yeah, you guys are lucky.
If we had social media back in the day, and if we had streaming and all this stuff, and if we just had Red Zone back in the day, Lakeena, trust and believe, yours truly would have been like, bleep you NFL, bleep you Fox 32. Oh, you won't get to see this game because it was a home game and you didn't sell out. Bleep that. I'm going to Red Zone, the original protest channel. If they had that Red Zone channel back in the day, you'll surely been stuck in front of that television. Because we also remember too, this is when NBC had the NFL package the first time, when they had the Sunday afternoon games. Remember, we would traditionally get a bad West Coast team Denver versus San Diego. Kansas City was good back in those days, but you had Kansas City versus Denver. Denver was good up and down with Elway. You occasionally would get an East Coast team playing each other, but it was usually an East Coast team versus a West Coast team. Seattle versus San Diego.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, we could.
Most of those teams was terrible. And for NBC, if it was like San Francisco versus Buffalo, you would occasionally get that, but you would usually get a bad AFC West game at 3:00 every Sunday back in the day. You don't get those as much anymore, thank goodness.
I mean, I remember back in the day, because you couldn't tell that, like, we get to watch San Fran and Dallas. Yes, they were like, damn it, there was a sellout. God,
yeah.
Started like, good.
Hey, remember too, you had to wait until 6:00. CBS did this too when they got the NFL back. They don't have to do it anymore, but at least I know. For me, you had to wait till when like you said, San Francisco, Dallas wasn't shown in your area. You had to wait till 6:00 to see if that game went over. If it did, you get to watch the rest of that game. I was one of those people. I was one of those people.
One of those
people. I was like, yes, the game is now over. At least I get to watch the last few minutes of it. Yes.
Oh God, yeah. They would do a voice of whoever, James Brown or Jim Nantz, who's ever doing the voiceover, doing the pregame show at that time. They would say, okay, for those of you who missed it, here's the conclusion of the 49ers Cowboys game. You're like, okay, cool. we finally get a chance to watch that.
Yes.
Or Washington, Dallas, or whatever, whoever, Giants, Dallas, or whoever. Like I get so miffed. Like thankfully, you know what, younger people, all you people under 30 are so lucky. You guys should be lucky that you're living in a time now, because we had to do a lot to watch NFL games way back when.
Yeah, you would get 3 games over the air per week. It was wherever the doubleheader game was if you were lucky, and then the one game on the other network. Then of course you had Sunday Night Football with TNT and ESPN splitting the coverage until 1998 when ESPN took over Sunday night full time. And then it was Sunday night, then Monday night.
Yes,
Sundays was a drag. I was excited, but it was a drag, and we don't have to experience that anymore. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God, praise you. Thank God that they did away with all those rules, with the blackout rules and all those other things. So, heavens to Betsy. So we want to do a quick shout record before we do our last story. Dedicating life of a Chicago news icon. Shout out to Emma Raducanu. I mean, I've been trying to say her name for like the last 2 days, but 18 years old, wins the 2021 U.S. Open. She's the first qualifier, male or female, to win a major title since 1968. She's also the youngest to win a Grand Slam title since Maria Sharapova did it at 17. She won Wimbledon in 2004. Also to Leah Fernandez. Shout out to her. She's 19. I think the future of women's tennis is going to be just fine. I know people were wondering, like, okay, what about the Williams sisters and, Naomi Osaka and some of her, the personal mental issues that she's going through. I mean, where's the future? Future's going to be just fine. Also, to Coco Gauff, who made it all the way to the women's doubles finals. They lost, but, hopefully this will get her motivated to have that, to really, buckle down on the singles side. Also to Daniil Medvedev, who finally beat Novak Djokovic in the Grand Slam final. The third time was a charm from him. If you guys remember a couple years back when Djokovic just blew the doors off him, he actually apologized, if you guys remember. But yeah, he came back and won and dominated Djokovic, who I think he just ran out of gas, both mentally and physically. I think the pressure, John McEnroe said in the telecast, I think the pressure kind of got to him. So, and it was also to his Medvedev's wedding anniversary, so he told his wife that you get another present too, but this was a nice pre-present. So congrats to both those two first-time Grand Slam champions, and also for the Leah Fernandez, also to Djokovic. I know he feels really bad that he didn't get a chance to. He probably won't get another shot to be just the second guy to win the calendar slam, but he got to be feeling pretty good. The fact that he's able to play at such a high level at his age, at his 35, but he should definitely get his flowers nonetheless.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena with you for the next couple of minutes. Our last story, Lakeena, will make this quick. You mentioned a Chicago TV news anchor legend passed away over the weekend. Her name was Miss Allison Payne, originally born and raised in Detroit, but she was a news anchor for WGN TV in Chicago from the years 1990 to 2010. She passed away at the age of 57 due to health issues. I don't think the word's still out on what officially was the cause of her death, but I saw a series of tweets from Dean Richards, who's the entertainment reporter at WGN. Of course, after that, all the anchors around town and across the country started paying tributes to Miss Payne. She, as I mentioned, she passed away over the weekend. She was at WGN for 20 years. She was the anchor of the 9 p.m. news with Rick Rosenthal first, and then Steve Sanders for the remainder of her time there at WGN. All I thought about Lakeena real quick was I believe she was one of 2 black female anchors in this town, Chicago, that anchored the primetime newscast. The other one was Diane Burns. She was working at Channel 7 WLS here in Chicago at the time. I know she made a comeback 15 years ago at Channel 2 WBBM, the CBS affiliate here in Chicago. But Allison Payne, along with Diane Burns, were the first 2 black female anchors to anchor a primetime newscast in this town. And I remember watching the 9 o'clock news, especially remember when the Bulls were on WGN back in the day, especially during the heyday of Michael Jordan. She was a person about everything. She covered the big time events from Reverend Jesse Jackson to the political debates and to big stories around the country, not just around the city, but around the country as well. She was a part of those Bulls championship rally coverages as well during the mid to late 90s. So those of you that missed it, that need a refresher, just check it out right here on YouTube. She was an avid sports fan. And also I remember too, when Doug Banks, when he was here in Chicago, RIP Doug Banks. But when Doug Banks had his local show here in Chicago on WGCI, and when he did his national show, I know the first affiliate was the old 106 Jams here in Chicago. Allison Payne was always brought on as a guest. She connected with the Black community, but not just with the Black community. Everyone in Chicago loved her and respected her as well. So she was a great anchor, a great journalist. She was about people, and she carried herself with grace and class. So that's what I'm going to miss about her. That's what I'm going to remember most about her.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. And also to our buddy Armando said that she was his mother's favorite news anchor. I think she was probably a lot of folks' favorites. Favorite news anchors. And I think she kind of epitomized, like you said, class, and she was able to do hard news and also do the quote unquote fluff, as they say. That's what they call it now. And also too, like you said, I mean, the fact that she actually gave the voice to the voiceless, to the people. And I think, like you said, she's an avid sports fan. I know when Dan Warren, we were all doing sport, when he was doing sports, and she would always say, like, what the hell happened to the Bears? Like, they should have passed the ball more, ran the ball more, or something like that. I'll paraphrase what she said, but I mean, she's definitely going to be missed by a lot of folks here in Chicago. I believe she was in Detroit because that's where she's from. Yes. So she worked in Detroit for a few years and came back here, and then unfortunately her health became an issue, so that's why she ended up having to go back to Detroit. But yeah, she's definitely going to be someone that was missing. I saw Cheryl Bird, who's the anchor over at ABC 7. She does both the 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news. She said a quote, without Allison, she said she probably wouldn't be in the position she would be right now if it wasn't for Allison Payne. She kind of opened, she and Diane Burrows kind of opened the door for Black, especially for Black female journalists, especially in top markets. So she definitely should get her due. And thoughts of prayers go out to her and the rest of her family. This is a big loss for the news community, especially among the Black media.
Yes. So rest in power, Miss Allison Payne, and peace and love to her and her family during this challenging time. So we want to pay our tributes to Allison Payne, who passed away this past weekend at the age of 57. She's gone physically, but she'll never be forgotten. Her legacy will live on forever with all of us. Lakeena, close us out.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can listen to the audio version of this show on War on Anchor. You can type that in on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on all podcast platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can catch this show every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time every Monday, every Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Thank you very much for your support. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Enjoy the Ravens-Raiders game tonight. Also, the rest of the sports are going to be happening this week. And we'll bring it to you as well on Friday. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. You guys stay safe. Wash your hands. If you're not going to get vaccinated, at least wear a mask and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Till then, go Sox. Holla!